Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. Today, we are having another Magic Talk with Toad. Say hello, Toad.
Hello.
Amazing. So we got some pretty good feedback on Discord and the YouTube comments to a degree on our last video where we went over a primer of a list Toad played in a tournament. So tonight we're going to do the same thing because it seemed to do pretty well and it was pretty easy to make. And going off the bi-weekly schedule, I know this one's a day late. I was sick all day today. It's the cold and all that and the dry air. It takes a toll on us.
We live in the worst place in the world, so we have to deal with that.
It's not that bad.
The only good thing about Ohio is value vintage.
We also have astronauts. Astronauts are pretty cool.
You can't get an astronaut for $30, though.
Well, you can become an astronaut for $30.
I suppose.
Good enough. Anyway. Yeah. But thank you for joining us, and we're sorry the video is a bit late. We appreciate the patience. We appreciate you being here. Thank you for being here. And while we have you here, before we get into the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. It really helps out. We want to keep doing this. We enjoy it. We just had to, like we've said in past videos, we had to change back, do bi-weekly instead of weekly, and just change the format up and just work on some stuff. Try to figure out what works.
Yep.
Toad is in a slightly better spot for the most part, just after moving. I'm, besides being sick, in a mostly better spot. I've not been playing Value Vintage as much, just because Toad moved away. But Toad's been playing more often online because Toad does stuff like that.
Yeah, I've been playing the Sunday tournaments from the Discord whenever I can get into them. So I did Yojimbo, and then I did Bison Whistle last week and did very poorly, and then I fixed the deck and did Bison Whistle and went 3-1.
And that gets us into today's deck, which is the Bison Whistle list. We talked about this in our Avatar set review, that we thought this list would be good, which I will link in the top corner right now. And Toad's been testing it, Toad's been tinkering it, Toad's been telling me about it, and it seems pretty good. And we got some stuff from Lorwyn, which, including, what's the big Lorwyn thing that you thought would be good?
Chomping Changeling has been big for the deck. And additionally, there's another changeling for the deck that you might not expect, and I certainly didn't expect looking at the spoilers, but we'll get into that when we get to the list.
Yeah. The next video will be the 10th. When does Ninja Turtles pre-release? Because we gotta do a set review for Ninja Turtles.
I don't know. I have zero enthusiasm for Ninja Turtles.
I think Ninja Turtles is kind of cool. It seems an okay set, not good, but okay. And I have a soft spot for Ninja Turtles. I might find a Ninja Turtle commander that seems kind of neat and build a deck around them for $100 and call it a day.
I think I'm at the point where if Wizards is going to release 10 sets a year, counting standard sets plus commander sets plus whatever, I'm only going to care about the good ones.
That's fair. The hard part is, and the professor went over this recently, is you kind of have to care about every set if you're playing a format that's affected by every set.
I can just buy singles, and not very many of them, so the problem is my budget doesn't go up.
Yeah.
No matter how many sets go out. If my budget is $50 a month or whatever, and they release 10 sets in the same month, I still only can spend $50.
That's
which
totally
is
fair.
why I'm playing Value Vintage and Pauper a little bit.
That's fair.
But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the
Cool.
first list that I played at the tournament.
Absolutely. See you later, Kazoo Kid. And we go here. Alright, so this is the list. Changing Whistle by ToadBrews, MVGO Sunday, 2/22/26. 2 days ago, as of the day of recording this.
Yep. So this deck went 3-1.
Hey!
I did get a bye in round 1, so keep that in mind. However, the only deck that I lost to was the first place deck. So I think that balances out the bye a little bit.
Okay. Interesting
So
stuff.
yeah, so let's look at these creatures we've got. So actually, you know what? Let's start by looking at Bison Whistle again. Let's just get Bison Whistle out because this deck's going to make a lot more sense.
Alright, Bison Whistle.
So
we went over it once, but it's 1 green for an artifact. 1 tap it, look at the top card of your library. If it's a Bison card, you may put it on the battlefield. If it's a creature card, you may reveal it and put it in your hand. Otherwise, you may put it in the graveyard. Cool.
Yep. So this is card selection. It's also card advantage. And if we have Bison, which is why we're playing a bunch of changelings, they just go straight onto the battlefield. So let's look at some of these creatures with the thought that if they're changelings, they go on the battlefield for free. First, we have Graveshifter. So this is a 2/2/4 drop that when it enters the battlefield, you get a creature card from your graveyard back to your hand. These are a little bit slow, even when you're putting them into play for 1 mana. The 2/2 body is okay, but not great. But you know what? You have to have like a density of changeling cards to make the deck function. And I've found that the best way to win the game is to just always have a Chameleon Colossus in play, ideally having it be attacking. So if they have a way to deal with your Colossus, it's good to be able to get it back.
Yeah.
We've got Mischievous Sneakling. So this is the guy that I did not even care about looking at the spoiler, did not think it was playable at all. Somehow this is just a good card for the deck. It's just a 2/2 flash changeling for 2. So this is a very castable mana cost. It gives us something that we can put onto the board early. It enables all of our kindred effects, and it can trade up. You can trade this for a better creature quite often because of the flash. And you can also just put it into play for free. Which, if you have Brainstorm or Brain Surge, then putting this on top and putting it into play with Bison Whistle clears it off the top of your deck and gets you some free value as you move through cards.
So you're more or less just playing just a grizzly bear, more or less.
It's a flash grizzly bear. It is a little ambush bear. Surprise, there's a bear.
Surprise, there's a bear. Okay.
Chomping Changeling, 3 mana. When it comes into play, destroy an artifact or enchantment. It's a 1/2. It is optional, so if you are the only one who has like a Bison Whistle or whatever, you don't have to destroy it. But I have found that this deck has 2 types of really good matchups. One of them is decks where Chomping Changeling is very good, and the other one is decks that have a lot of black cards for Chameleon Colossus. And if you ever run into something where both of those are true, then you're just feeling awesome. Chameleon Colossus is a 4/4.
Yeah.
It has protection from black and changeling. The protection from black is huge. Like, obviously, the best removal in the format is Swords to Plowshares, but once you get past that, a lot of the best removal is either toughness based, which struggles with Colossus because of its other ability, or it's black. So, like Power Word Kill, or Go for the Throat, or Cast Down, or Fatal Push is starting to see play now, and Chameleon Colossus just doesn't care about any of that. And because you can pay 2 green to double its power and toughness until end of turn, it doesn't really care about burn spells either. Like, just on the face, they need 2 lightning bolts to kill it. And if you're holding up 4 mana, they need 4 lightning bolts to kill it. Or 3 lightning bolts to kill it. But then if you're holding up 8 mana, then even 4 isn't enough.
Yeah.
I had a game against a Jund deck where their removal was lightning bolts and power word kills, I believe, and power word kill can't touch it, and they spent 2 lightning bolts on it, and I had just brain surged for another one and put it into play with Bison Whistle. And then once you get to the mid to late game where you have the ability to pay 4 mana and also hold up a spell, this ends the game very quickly. It puts them in abyss mode very well.
Okay.
Even if you're not pumping it, it can put them into abyss mode very well, because a lot of the creatures that people would want to be chump blocking with do not have 4 power or toughness. So if they're having to chump block with like an ignoble hierarch, you're just eating that anyway.
It's just
You don't
constant
have to
pressure.
pump it. Yeah, it is a 4/4 that you can put into play at instant speed a lot of the time for 1 mana, and then you threaten to pump it, but you don't need to a lot of the time.
Huh, neat.
And then Mutable Explorer is a 1/1 changeling, and when it comes in, it makes a Mutavault token. So Mutavault is a land that taps for colorless, and you can pay 1 to turn it into a 2/2 with changeling until end of turn. This guy is good. However, he is about $2, and he just doesn't justify his price tag in this deck. Now, if he comes down closer to $1, I will definitely run some, but the updated list we're going to go to in a little bit does not have these guys in it.
I do think he's pretty cool though, or it's pretty cool.
I love the card. If it goes down in price just a little, we can fit him back in.
Yeah.
But I wanted to swap the portents for ponders, and to make room for that, it was Mutable Explorer going out.
God, that's fair.
Like, if we can live in a world where Mutable Explorer is 50 cents, then I'll run a playset of him for sure.
I don't think we're going there.
I just don't think we're gonna be there unless it gets a reprint in something. I don't know.
Maybe it's a fresh card. I doubt it.
Yeah, we have Portent. So Portent is bad ponder, sort of. Look at the top 3 cards of any player's library. You can put them back in any order. You can make them shuffle, and then you draw a card at the next upkeep. This is just a cantrip that arranges the top of our deck for Bison Whistle. It's not fancy. The problem with portents is they're actually like fairly expensive on MTGO. Not like 20 tickets or anything, but several tickets. And so Ponder is very cheap. So I wanted to make this deck update the list a little bit to work better for MTGO players, because I'm running it in MTGO tournaments. So when we get to the updated list and go to the considering section, we'll see that there's some cards in there that I would love to play main deck, but they're Doctor Who cards, so they don't exist on Magic Online.
Got it.
But Portent is really good because it can find your land drops early. It can set up your Bison Whistles late, and it can also dig for removal when you do need to kill something.
And it should be a familiar card for those who've seen our Lantern videos. When I used to play Lantern, I loved playing Portent because it's such a funny card.
Yeah, Portent does some work for sure. Down in the instance, we're mostly dividing this into 2 categories, which is brainstorms and interaction. So we've got 3 brain surge, which is big brainstorm, and then we've got the 1 regular brainstorm, which is the Final Fantasy version, because that's the cheapest right now. For interaction, we've got 3 lose focus, which is just a solid counterspell for the format. We've got 1 nameless inversion, which is a changeling, so it keeps our changeling count up. And then there's another trick that we can go over with this when we get to the land base. And then we've just got some good old-fashioned power word kills.
Why only 1 nameless inversion?
Because it's not super good at actually killing stuff.
Got it.
Like, a lot of the times you want to kill something. So, like, let's say 3 of the big decks right now, based on SCG Milwaukee, are Rhinos, Nadu, and Cloudpost.
Gross.
Nameless Inversion kills Shardless Agent, but not a Rhino. It kills Nomad's Encore, and it can kill the Breakfast guy, but it doesn't kill Nadu himself, so they're just going to draw out of it if all you have is Nameless Inversion. And then it doesn't reliably kill a lot of the initiative creatures, which is another thing to keep in mind here. Okay. So most decks do have a target for Nameless Inversion, but you do not want to overload on Nameless Inversions.
Got it.
So that's the instance. The artifacts, we have the Bison Whistles, we have a Soul Ring. This is a deck that wants to cast up to 5 mana spells, so Soul Ring is great. And then we have some Furdok Cores, which is a 3 mana rock with Changeling. So this is counting for all your kindred effects, but it also can turn into a 4/4 with Changeling. I will be real with you. I have never turned this into a 4/4. I have used it as a mana rock quite a bit, and it has been very useful to have a changeling on the battlefield that doesn't get removed by Swords to Plowshares. So this is a good card in the deck. I suppose if the opponent, like let's say they surgical extraction all of your Chameleon Colossus, the Furdok Core does give you a reasonably sized body to beat with. But you're really not hoping to do that. You're hoping to use it for mana and just the changeling keyword. And then the last spell is Unholy Annex and Ritual Chamber.
Yeah.
So this is a card that I've been very high on since I got into the format. Unholy Annex is at the end of your turn, you draw a card and lose 2 life, but if you have a demon, instead the opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So you're draining them for 2 and drawing a card every turn. And then for 5 mana, you can unlock the room that just makes a big flying demon token.
Yeah.
So this is another beater if the Chameleon Colossus gets handled. I have found that usually I cast this as Unholy Annex, and then it either gets countered because they can't let me have all the draw, or it gets removed by like an Oblivion Stone or something before I can unlock the demon. Very occasionally, you will play it on the demon side first because you really want to apply pressure. That's usually something you do against the initiative matchups. But most of the time, this is just a draw engine for the deck. And then if you get the demon late game, it's just extra value.
Yeah. Alright, let's look at this land base. This land base looks insane.
So we've got Secluded Courtyard. You'd name whatever creature type you want because all of your creatures are every type, so it will cast all of your creatures. It also activates your creatures, which is very important for Chameleon Colossus. This is a little bit weak. I'm not a super high on this land, but it does do some work in the deck. The next land is Opulent Palace, which looks absurd to play in Value Vintage. Like,
yeah.
There's no possible way that this is a good card, except somehow it just ties the whole deck together and makes it work properly.
If you say so.
So you are not really playing the 1 mana interaction that a lot of decks in the format play. Like, you don't have Inquisition of Kozilek, you don't have Spell Pierce, and that does hurt you in the super fast matchups. But what you are doing with this deck is using your first turn play to build up your mana base. You're either playing an Opulent Palace or a Sunken Hollow or a Soul Ring, and just setting yourself up for a very strong turn 2, turn 3, turn 4.
Got it.
Then this next land, Temple of the Dragon Queen. This card is wild. Like, this is another one that, like, you look at it and like, how is this what I want to be doing? But it just fixes the mana perfectly.
Yeah.
And the Temple of the Dragon Queen is the main reason that you want to keep your changeling count high. Like, obviously, it's great for Bison Whistle to have a lot of them. Excuse me. But you want to be able to have your temples come into play untapped on turn 2 or 3, or even turn 1.
Yeah.
We've got Sunken Hollow, which should not have been in the deck. I was reorganizing the mana base last minute before the tournament and totally forgot that Sunken Hollow would never come into play untapped. And I had cut the Hinterland Harbor and Woodland Cemeteries that rely on its types. So it's just a guild gate. It shouldn't have been in the deck, and it's not in the updated version. We've got some Pain Lands, blue-green, black-green. Green is the most important color to have 2 of because of Chameleon Colossus. And then black, you have a use for the second black, but it's very late game, so you're not worried about it. But Chameleon Colossus legitimately wants you to have 4 green mana when you get to 8 mana, or 2 green mana when you get to 4 mana. So green is the color that we're really importantly focused on.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Unholy Grotto, which is some spicy tech.
Yeah.
So if they manage to kill our changelings, which a lot of the changelings are small, they die pretty easy, we can put them back on top and then immediately Bison Whistle them into play.
Hmm.
So the opponent, or you play Chameleon Colossus, the opponent has the 2 lightning bolts, or maybe they have a sudden edict or a smallpox. I played against smallpox in this tournament. And they get rid of the Chameleon Colossus. They invest a lot of resources to do it. And then you play down Unholy Grotto from your hand, put it on top, Bison Whistle, it's back in play. And that is just pretty crippling for a lot of decks that struggle to deal with the Colossus the first time. Like, Chameleon Colossus is not invincible. It does die, but usually the second one gets them. And so Unholy Grotto lets us have the second one much more consistently.
Got it.
All right, so let's go down into the sideboard.
Sideboard.
We have got 3 Soul Guide Lantern, 4 Duress, 2 Test of Talents.
Makes sense.
These are pretty standard anti-graveyard, anti-combo cards. You can also bring Duress in against heavy counterspell decks to try and stick a Bison Whistle, but I would only do that if they are making part of your deck bad. Like if they don't have any artifacts or enchantments for your Chomping Changelings, or if they don't have any targets for your creature removal.
Oh.
And then we have the last Chomping Changeling. He's kind of hanging out here. We have 3 Caustic Exhales. So I said earlier we don't have a lot of 1 mana interaction. That's because it's in the sideboard. So we have 1 mana Graveyard Hate, 1 mana Hand Disruption, and 1 mana Creature Disruption. So in the decks where we want to kill their small creatures quickly, like against Cephalid Breakfast, Nadu, where we want to save our big removal spells for the bird, we can use Caustic Exhale to kill the Nomads or the Cephalid.
Okay.
We do have to reveal a dragon or pay 1. That's not a huge problem because most of the time in your opening hand you will have 1 changeling, if not 2. But the fact that the fail mood on this is just 2 mana -3/-3 still does kill those creatures, especially if you're on the play.
Yeah.
So the bottom on this card, the floor is pretty high, and then the ceiling on it, which is where you trade for something important for 1 mana, is just great.
Okay.
And then we have Crux of Fate, which is choose one: destroy all dragon creatures or destroy all non-dragon creatures. All of our creatures are dragons, so if we destroy all non-dragon creatures, it is a one-sided board wipe most of the time. So you can have like a Chomping Changeling and a Mischievous Sneakling and a Chameleon Colossus, wipe their board of however many creatures, swing in for 7, and then if they don't immediately play to the board, you swing back in, pump up the Colossus. So now they're taking 13. So that's 7 plus 13.
That's 20. That'll do it. Not too bad. Not too bad. Seems like a pretty like linear list. Like not a bad way.
The deck is, I have described this deck as 4 Chameleon Colossus and 71 cards to deploy, protect, and enable Chameleon Colossus.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I think Chameleon Colossus, any deck that is built to abuse it, is on par with the 4 mana initiative creatures as for how fast it can close out a game.
Okay.
But unlike the initiative creatures, which are just kind of like self-sustaining, where you play 7 or 8 initiative creatures and then whatever you want to play, Chameleon Colossus requires you to build the deck as a support system for it.
Yeah. But it seems like you've done it pretty well here, and a 2/1 plus a buy isn't too bad.
Yeah, I lost to Eldrazi Post, and I beat Smallpax Hogak, and I beat Jund Midrange.
Not too bad.
So yeah, so That's like a aggro combo type deck, a graveyard deck. And then there was a mid-range deck, and then the Cloud Post matchup seems difficult. You really need to keep Oblivion Stone off the table, and we're not super well set up to do that, especially if they play it on 8 mana, so the Chomping Changelings don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So the deck that we can go to now is the updated list, which is what I would like to play if I play this deck this coming Sunday.
Okay.
So we have 2 Graveshifters still. We've gone up to 4 Sneaklings, 3 Chomping Changelings still, 4 Chameleon Colossus still,
Okay.
and the Mutable Explorers have switched out for budget reasons, pretty much.
Yeah, we'll go over those later.
Yeah. In the sorceries, we have switched the portents to ponders, which cost you about $1 extra per card, but it is a massive quality increase when you're trying to find lands or removal quickly.
Yeah.
And then as far as removal, we have swapped out the power word kills for 2 Maelstrom Pulse and an Abrupt Decay, and then we did go up a nameless inversion.
I saw that.
Because Maelstrom Pulse is able to handle the rhinos that we're worried about quite a bit better than Power Word Kill is.
Mm-hmm.
And Maelstrom Pulse is also able to handle all of the big initiative creatures. It can handle Shuko against the Nadu matchup. So while you're still not killing Nadu very well with a Maelstrom Pulse because it's so slow, you can preemptively take a Shuko or several off the table. So it does kind of patch that matchup a little bit.
Yeah.
And then against like token decks where they're making a bunch of the same token, which is not a huge part of the format outside of Rhinos, but you do occasionally run into it with stuff like Insidious Roots. If you really need to clean up a whole board of tokens, that's an ability you have now.
Yeah.
And it's just more artifact and enchantment removal to back up the Chomping Changeling. So then, yeah, down in the instance, we've got nameless inversions. I swapped out the lose focuses for Dispelling Exhales, which is a Dragon Kindred counterspell. Basically, it's lose focus without replicate, but if you have a dragon, the first replicate is free. Sort of. It doesn't work as well against cascade spells, and I actually did lose focus the cascade spell and the cascader in the Jund midrange matchup I played against. But this is just more efficient if you want them to pay more than 2.
Yeah.
And it's also about 6 cents cheaper than lose focus per card. So again, we're opening up some budget. I did go down a brain surge. Again, brain surge is really powerful, but it is a little bit clunky, and I wanted to fit that extra removal spell in, which is an abrupt decay. So abrupt decay is kind of a nod to Nadu decks. You can clean up the bird very easily. If they have the blink effect, the 1 mana blue blink, it does answer abrupt decay. But if they have boarded in counter spells, then you're not going to care about those at all. Abrupt Decay is also pretty reasonable against the blue Cloud Post decks. If they want to try and play an Oblivion Stone, like let's say they're on 5 mana and they want to play Oblivion Stone with a counterspell backup, you can take the stone off the table before they activate and make them waste a lot of time and mana, like scour for scrap, replay the Oblivion Stone, put a fate counter on something if they want it, activate the Oblivion Stone for 5. So it does kind of mess with their workflow a little bit.
Yeah.
Right now I'm on 1 copy. It is about $1. I would love to fit Assassin's trophies, but those are still around
Yeah.
$1.80. So right now we've got the Maelstrom Pulses and the Abrupt Decays.
Okay.
We're still on Soul Ring. We're still on 4 Bison Whistle. We have added a 3rd Furdock core. I'd like to fit a 4th, but I think 3 is what we have room for right now.
Yeah.
And then still 3 Unholy Annex Ritual Chamber.
Perfect.
And then I have pretty heavily messed with the mana base. So we are on one island, one swamp, two forest, and two foreboding landscape. So this is replacing the secluded because this will let us cast our instants and sorceries a little bit more efficiently.
Yeah.
And the foreboding landscape also reshuffles after a brainstorm brain surge. So that is an ability I want the deck to have. We've still got the opulent palaces. We've still got 3 and 3 pain lands, 4 of the dragon temple, 2 unholy grotto, but we've fit in 1 botanical sanctum.
Wow.
So again, you really want to have the green mana. You want to have blue and green early so you can deploy your Bison Whistle and your Counterspell and your Ponder. Botanical Sanctum giving you a turn 1 Ponder is a really good line that the deck can have. Again, for budget reasons or just fitting 1.
Okay.
And then we've taken 1 Caustic Exhale out of the sideboard because we have the second Nameless Inversion main, 1 Duress out of the sideboard. The Test of Talents are gone. We've put in Filigree Silex. That's a nod to how popular Rhino seems to be. It's being played online and in paper tournaments, so I want to have a couple Silexes. We have trimmed 1 Soul Guide Lantern, and all of these trims are making room for 3 Break the Ice. So I am not sure if this is where I want to be against the Tron decks, because we have a lot of lands that can tap for colorless. However, Damping Sphere is something that the Eldrazi Tron decks can just remove very easily. And the blue Tron decks are aiming to play a longer game, so they can also just pay 3 mana for an Oblivion Stone and then pop it on turn 5. We don't kill them quickly enough to prevent that. So what I'm actually doing with Break the Ice, usually when I'm playing this, it's in a deck with a lot of ramp, and I'm planning to overload it. I'm actually planning to play Break the Ice as a 2-mana spell.
Huh. Okay.
Just take out a Cloud Post immediately and slow them down. And then if we get to the late game and like we've already got a board built up, like we've got a Bison Whistle, we've got an Unholy Annex, we've got a Chameleon Colossus, then we can just blow up most of their lands and half of our lands.
Yeah.
And just try to force them to deal with our permanents. Because Chameleon Colossus plus Unholy Annex is a 2-turn clock if they don't have blockers.
Huh. Yeah, that works.
So if we can use the first Break the Ice to just buy a turn or two to get us to that mid game where the deck is built to thrive, I'm willing to try that. I'm also not opposed to running Fulminator Mage in that slot, but he is a little bit more expensive, and we do not have a way to take advantage of the elemental stuff. If we were running the typal lands where you choose a type and then you can play any creature that type, we could name elemental, and I'd be a little bit higher on that, but we're currently not on those.
Yeah.
So what we would be looking to do with Break the Ice is like turn 1 Opulent Palace, turn 2 Llanowar Waste or Dragon Temple, and then just blow up a land. And then it's just Sinkhole. You can also bring in Break the Ice against Thespian Stage Dark Depths decks and blow up their Thespian Stage, or their Dark Depths, because Dark Depths is a snowland.
Yeah.
So there is some play to it outside of the Tron matchup, but primarily this is in here for the Cloud Post / Tron type decks. So yeah, that is the deck. Did you want to go over the considering section a little bit?
Let's.
Okay, so we have Grist the Hunger Tide. So Grist is another kindred card, cares about insects. So it will mill a card, and if that card is a changeling, we get another bug. So that's great. It is a creature card when it's not in play, which means Bison Whistle can draw it. It can cash in our Mischievous Sneaklings to blow up pretty much any creature. Or Planeswalker. So
Yeah.
if your metagame has a lot of like Minsk and Boo or Grists in it, or even the Stellar Pups that are starting to get more expensive. I don't know if people are still on those. Grist is a pretty clean option that you can have that will handle those. And then the ultimate on Grist is not going to do a lot of damage, but sometimes you do just need like 3 or 4 damage to close the game, and you can get that pretty consistently late game. So Grist is definitely something to keep in mind for the deck. We've got a couple of creatures. So we've got the Mutable Explorer. He's still in the considering section. Like, he's a good card. It's just price that's making me not play him right now.
That's kind of why we didn't have him
We
in the set
have
review. Is because in the set when we made the set review, it was like $5.
Yeah, and then he's coming down. So if he keeps coming down, like, again, he doesn't have to drop a lot. Like, he's $1.78. If he hits $1.30 or something, then I'm starting to think about putting him back in.
Okay.
We have Cairn Wanderer. So Cairn Wanderer is very interesting. So if we have lost a Chameleon Colossus, Cairn Wanderer will have protection from black. You can kill a lot of your opponent's creatures that might incidentally have something like flying or haste or whatever. And then Cairn Wanderer just picks up those abilities. We don't personally in our deck have a lot of abilities that we can take advantage of, but if your meta is very creature heavy, let's say that you have a lot of people in your meta who are playing flying creatures or burn creatures with haste, or if you can get double strike, oh boy, you're really having fun.
Yeah.
Lifelink is good, protection is good. So Cairn Wonder is something to keep in mind. It's a 4/4 body, which is where you want to be for this. You want to be putting in 4/4s and up. So you don't actually have a lot of options for that in Changelings, especially without going into white. So Cairn Wanderer can bring the minimum necessary body to be a win condition by itself. And then if it's picking up a bunch of good abilities, then the stock on it goes way up. And it's not an expensive card. It's 32 cents.
Yeah.
And then we've got Venomous Changeling, which is just a 1/3 Death Touch Changeling. But if you're trying to mess with your opponent's attackers, then putting this into play at instant speed can do a lot of work. And it's 12 cents. So like these are the cards that you're playing to make budget in the deck, not the cards that you're spending your budget on.
Yeah.
And then nobody expects the singleton Venomous Changeling. So if you're missing a card for the deck and you're just like, what can I play? Well, look in your bulk, find a Venomous Changeling, slap it in there. You probably have one. You might even have a foil one. That'll really get them angry.
Yeah.
And then we've got a non-changeling, which is Boggart Harbinger. So the Harbinger cycle from original Lorwyn searches your library for a specific creature type and puts it on top. So this sets up Bison Whistle. Unfortunately, the 1 mana Harbinger, Treefolk Harbinger, is like $10.
Ooh.
So we're paying 3 mana for this effect. If we even want it, I'm not sure we do. If you have a lot of mono black decks in your meta that you're expecting to play against, or like green black mid-range decks where the removal is all black, being able to set up Chameleon Colossus more consistently will win you games. I would probably only run like 1 or 2 Boggart Harbingers, probably just 1, but it is something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
All right, and then we've got Formless Genesis. So this is a changeling sorcery for 3 mana, where you create an XX shapeshifter token with changeling and, again, Death Touch. Very important to be able to win combat in this deck because you're limited a little bit on your removal, so you want your bodies to be able to win combat or at least trade.
Yeah.
So this does that. And then the size of the token is equal to the number of land cards in your graveyard. So if I was going to play this, I would rework the mana base significantly. We would definitely want 4 Foreboding Ruins, and then I think we would probably want some number of Ash Barrens or Cycling Lands or something like that.
Yeah.
And then it has retrace. So you can discard a land card to cast it from your graveyard. It's not flashback. It doesn't get exiled. You just do it as many times as you want to discard a land, which means this can start making changelings that are 3/3s, 4/4s, even 5/5s. And now you're threatening them again. So, like the same issue with Karen Wanderer, you're getting up to that 4/4 body where they have to respect the body on the creature, even if the abilities aren't relevant.
Yeah.
And it's a changeling, so it keeps your changeling count up for the Temple of the Dragon Queens and the Caustic Exhales.
That's what works. That's pretty good.
All right, so let's go to this next card. This card would 100% be in the list if it existed on Magic Online. The Doctor Who cards are not allowed to be on Magic Online, I believe, for contractual reasons from Wizards of the Coast and the BBC. So if you are playing the deck in paper, take out the Maelstrom Pulses and put in Exterminates.
You gotta say it the right way, though.
Exterminate.
Exterminate.
I have a sore throat, so we're doing our best here.
We did our best.
But
anyway.
this is destroy target creature, any creature. So you're destroying any of the creatures you want to kill, and its controller loses 3 life. So again, like we said with the Grist Ultimate, a lot of the time 3 or 4 life is what you're looking for. This card is really exciting because it has Replicate, tap an untapped Dalek you control. So all of a sudden, if you have a Mischievous Sneakling and the Gravedigger Changeling, you're suddenly destroying 3 creatures and they lose 9 life, which is just wild. So that's a lot of value. There are a couple other Doctor Who cards in the considering section. I would strongly consider. I'm going to buy them for paper when I finish this deck, and I'm just going to have to live without them for Magic Online.
Yeah.
Demonic Council, again, like Boggart Harbinger. If there is a specific changeling that is going to be really strong in your meta, Demonic Council is going to let you go find the specific changelings. And then we actually are running instant sorceries, lands, creatures, and kindreds, and artifacts, and
1,
enchantments. So, like,
2, 3, 4. I'm just counting. 5, 6, 7. Yeah, all right.
We can pretty easily get to Delirium, especially if we're milling like lands and enchantments with our Bison Whistles. So then it suddenly just becomes find whatever card you want. So, like, do we want a Unholy Annex in play? Do we need a removal spell? We're going to find that. Problem with this card, $1.23.
I have a foil one somewhere.
If you swap out your Ponders for Portents, then you make room for a couple of these. So that's the swap that I am considering making. Right now, I want to play with the Ponders for a while.
Okay. That makes sense.
Here's a fun sideboard card. Peer Pressure. Choose a creature type. If you control more creatures of that type than any other player, you gain control of all of them. So this is a card that I would run as a 2 of, and I would be running it with probably Formless Genesis and Mutable Explorer because you really want to get those extra bodies into play. But if you have 3 changelings and your opponent has 2 creature cards that share a creature type, like, oh, what's a creature type 2 creatures might share? Rhinoceros. Then you can just take them. They're yours now. They don't get them back.
Peer pressure works, y'all. Make your rhinos do drugs.
So again, this is a card that it's not exorbitantly expensive. It's very well within the limits of what you can play in this format, but it is something you're investing budget in rather than making budget with.
Okay, so why do you have Doomsday here? This does not seem like a Doomsday list. I'm confused.
Just put 4 Chameleon Colossuses on top of your deck and put them into play with Bison Whistle and cast them, and then your opponent is just taking so much damage. I'm not actually going to do that unless they reprint Doomsday again, because 361 for that is absurd, but it is a very funny meme play that you can totally do.
I have one doomsday on the list. What's in it for? You'll see when it happens.
Yeah. I would probably, if I was going to do that, I would also put like an elixir of immortality or something in the deck. And then it's just all Chameleon Colossus until one of us is dead.
Yeah. That's your mascot card. That's your little red lizard in the green deck.
Yeah. All right. We got some instants. So, Time Lord Regeneration. Until end of turn, target Time Lord you control games. When this creature dies, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a Time Lord creature card. Put it onto battlefield, rest on the bottom in a random order. This just turns your Mischievous Sneakling potentially into a Chameleon Colossus. I would not run this with Nameless Inversion or Formless Genesis because that can make you whiff. So you would want to cut the Nameless Inversions and not run the Formless Genesis in the deck. But you can like flash out a Mischievous Sneakling, block, trade, and then turn it into a Chameleon Colossus, and then go to your turn and attack for 8.
Amazing.
And this is a 12-cent card because a lot of the Doctor Who cards that are not characters are just dirt cheap.
But they're not all Magic Online.
Correct. And there's another one in the lands, Gallifrey Council Chamber, that we can't play online. This is basically Secluded Courtyard, but you can surveil one when you play
That's
it.
not too bad.
But it's legendary, so you only want to run one, but you can run one. So I'll be ordering probably like a surge foil of it or something.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. And then cash grab.
So if we're running Formless Genesis as one of our win conditions, I want to run cash grab because we can pick up a squirrel, which is Formless Genesis, or it's another changeling, and make a food token. So we get a little bit of incidental life gain. We fill up our graveyard. We grab a changeling. It's doing a lot of work for us. Instant speed. Telling time, kind of doing the same thing. Setting up Bison Whistle. It's a lot worse than Ponder or Portent or Brainstorm, but it also is quite a bit cheaper money-wise. It's like 18 cents or something. So if you're really fighting for budget and you don't want to cut any of the pricier cards like Unholy Grotto or Chameleon Colossus or Chomping Changeling, you can swap a Brain Surge or a Portent for Telling Time.
Okay.
Absorb Identity. This is a really fun one I need to order and play out. So this is a 2-mana unsummon, and then you can make all of your shapeshifters become a copy of the creature you bounced until end of turn.
Time for more rhinos.
No, time for a Merit Lage.
Oh.
So a lot of the time, you can attack into their board, and they will make a Merit Lage to block your Chameleon Colossus, and then you're like, no, I will bounce your Merit Lage. I only get to keep one of my shapeshifters, but it's a Merit Lage. Take 20.
Yeah,
you can also do this with Caves of Chaos Adventurer, which is just a 5/3. So if you have 3 changelings and you swing in and they just have a Caves of Chaos Adventurer to block with, or even if it's been attacking you, you can bounce it and now your changelings all have 5 power. You can bounce some of the big Eldrazi's. So this is like secretly another Eldrazi post tech card. You bounce their I forget the guy's name, but like he lets you mulligan better basically, and he's like a 6/6 or something. You can just bounce that, and then all your changelings are 6/6s. One fun thing you can do is activate Chameleon Colossus and then absorb Identity in response. So whatever you bounced, Chameleon Colossus will double its power and toughness. So let's say you bounce 6/6. And you've paid 4 mana plus 2 for the unsummon, so 6 is a reasonable amount of mana for this deck to have on what is hopefully the last turn of the game. You can just hit them for like 12 with the Chameleon Colossus. I've seen some people who are getting like real spicy with World Spine Worm and Tinker, so this is really good against those. Not if they're using Flash, but if they're using some other way to cheat it into play, like Dramatic Entrance.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of play that this card has. Again, this is a meta dependent one. Like you're gonna want to play this probably main deck as like a 2 or 3 of. If you expect to be playing against big creatures, Sphinx of the Steel Wind, Dramatic Entrance, World Spine Worm, Merit Lages, Eldrazi, stuff like that, that's where this really is going to shine. But it can just end the game out of nowhere.
Huh. Yeah, I'll
And
do
then
it.
even if the opponent sees it coming for like game 2 or 3, they're still going to have to respect it, which means if you're suicide attacking like 4 creatures into their board of 5/5s, they still have to be like, well, are all of those 1/2s and 2/2s going to be 5/5s now? And maybe they just can't afford to block, and you just chip in like 5 damage for a couple turns. And then when they finally do block you, then yeah, you have it and you blow them out.
Mm-hmm.
Or they just are like, well, I'm only going to take 4 damage. I'm not going to block. And then you turn your 1/2, your 1/2, and your 2/2 into 4/4s, and they take 12, and it's over. So it is a very strong card that I'm interested in trying out. Enchantments, when we did the initial version of this deck, it was a counterbalance deck. However, counterbalance has gone up from like 275 to 414. It's no longer viable even as a one of in this deck, I believe, which is sad. But like we were not really doing counterbalance stuff anyway, so I'm not super unhappy to lose it. It's just something to keep in mind. If you want to play a counterbalance changeling deck, this is a shell that lets you do that. Just finding the budget is going to be difficult. Maybe you could cut the Unholy Annexes and the Abrupt Decay and some of the expensive lands and fit stuff in, but I personally am off of counterbalance until it gets another reprint. Gallifrey Council Chamber, we talked about already. And then the last card I have here is Riptide Laboratory. So this is a land that taps for colorless, and 1 blue, return target wizard you control to its owner's hand. So half of our changelings, a third of our changelings have enters the battlefield triggers. So this with Chomping Changeling and the Grave Changeling just lets us reuse those abilities. And it also protects Chameleon Colossus. So against, if your meta is a lot of like white-based control decks where you are planning to run into Swords to Plowshares a lot, I would swap out the Unholy Grottos for the Riptide Laboratories, which lets you fight removal on a different axis.
Okay.
And so that is the updated version of the deck. Do you want to run through a couple mulligans?
Yeah, hold on, let me check something. Anyway, yes, let's look at some hands. We are about 53 minutes in. I think we can do a few hands and then call it an hour.
All right, so yeah, this is a great hand.
Yeah.
So we're lacking the turn 1 interaction, but that's because we don't play it main deck. We have it in the sideboard. So what this hand gets to do is play the temple, reveal the Chomping Changeling. Generally, you don't want to reveal the Sneakling. It feels correct to reveal the Sneakling because it's the worst of your changelings, but it's also the only one that naturally has flash, so you want it to be a surprise. So we're going to reveal Chomping Changeling for the temple, and we're going to name Black. You can also just play the temple and not reveal anything because we're not using the mana and choose Black, which could be a better play if you want to hide, but like I think if you play against the people who have been regulars on the Sunday tournaments and you play a Temple of the Dragon Queen, they're going to be like, oh, it's the stupid Changeling deck again. So the jig is kind of up at that point. but you don't have to. If you're not going to use the mana, you don't have to reveal anything. And then turn 2, we play Yavimaya Coast, and suddenly we're holding up a creature and a counter spell. And then the next turn, we play Unholy Grotto, and we can cast anything in our hand. So
Yeah.
let's go ahead and draw a couple and see how this would play out.
Draw my coast. Okay. Draw Bison Whistle. Hey.
Yeah, so this hand, draw 4 more, because we would be casting Brain Surge at some point. Yeah, so we find the Soul Ring, we find the Annex, we find another Brain Surge. This hand is interacting with the opponent reasonably well. We have a counterspell and a naturalize. But we are going to need to leverage our draw spells to push the game longer. Basically, this is a stall hand. We want to try and stall the opponent out,
Okay.
which we are equipped to do if the opponent is on a mid-range plan. We're not really equipped to do it if the opponent is on something like Channel Mirror or Nadu Breakfast.
Yeah. Alright, let's do another one. Ah, it's playable.
So yeah, this is a turn 1 Foreboding Landscape for a swamp, and then a Yavimaya Coast, which unlocks Bison Whistle or Nameless Inversion if we think we need to hold up a removal spell.
Yeah.
And then we have Foreboding Landscape, which we can just use for mana to cast Brain Surge on turn 3. And then we untap, and before we go to our draw step, we Bison Whistle the Chameleon into play. So go ahead and draw a couple.
Hey.
Another Colossus, then a Furdok Core, and then the second green mana. So then we can sack the landscape for another swamp, and then we have double of all our colors. We've only got 1 removal spell, but again, this deck doesn't have infinite removal. We're not looking to kill everything. We're not trying to counter everything. We're trying to kind of clear a path for our Chameleon Colossus, and we do have a turn 4 Chameleon Colossus for 1 mana. And
Yeah.
we're going to draw even more cards on top of that.
Dang. We can probably do 1 or 2 more hands. Do another hand.
Yeah, this is totally fine. We have all of our colors. We have plenty of green mana. We have a removal spell. We have a counter spell, and we have a Chameleon Colossus.
That's what we need.
Let's go ahead and draw and see if we can find any more removal.
Temple, Furdok Core, Chameleon Colossus, Chopping Change.
So this hand is really on the beatdown plan. It's not ideal. We're not really seeing a lot of the removal spells with these hands. So this feels like it would struggle a little bit into some metagames. But if we're playing against the decks where we want to play Chameleon Colossus and Mischievous Sneakling and Chomping Changeling, then these hands will be great.
Alright.
Let's do one more.
Let's do one more. Fantastic.
This is a little bit rough because we don't have black mana, but we do have turn 1 Soul Ring, turn 2 Bison Whistle activate to look for lands. So let's draw a couple on this.
Alright.
That's acceptable. Like, we're with the Botanical Sanctum and the Soul Ring, we can cast everything in our hand except Maelstrom Pulse.
Yeah.
So we're not doing great, but again, if the Chomping Changelings and the Mischievous Sneaklings do work, and then there's the Llanowar Waste for the Maelstrom Pulses. So yeah, all of these hands, if I was playing against like the fair, like mid-range control type shells, I would be very happy with all these hands. If I was playing against Nadu Breakfast and Channel Mirror, I would not be happy. Rhinos can kind of go back and forth.
Alright, cool. So that was Changeling Whistle. Is that the name we're going with, or we're going to rename it later?
I'm just going with Changing Whistle for now. I'll probably think of a song title. I'm going to put the song titles back on the decks at some point.
People did like those.
Just if you were watching the test mulligans and you're like, how does this deck do anything early? Remember, it's all on the sideboard. You bring in the early interaction that actually matters for the matchup that you're playing against.
Yeah. So that was the list. Hopefully we provided a good enough primer for it. Or at least a general primer, whatever decks you should look for, decks you can play against, how the deck works, all that jazz. Depending on how things go, we might write up a primer for it eventually if it sticks around. I'm still working on
I want to settle on a list first. Like right
Okay.
now, there's still a lot of cards moving around in here. I would want to be closer to a fixed 75 before I wrote an actual primer.
Yeah, we're still working on our other written primers for some of our past decks, but they are being worked on, and once I get past the sickness stuff, we'll be fine. But anyway, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate it. In the top left corner of the screen, there'll be a randomly selected magic video on my channel for you. It's special. You should watch it. And below that is all the other Magic Talk with Toads. All of them. It's great. You should watch them. They're fantastic. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe like we said at the beginning of the video. Please leave a comment. We got some comments about our audio. Hopefully they're fixed. We got some comments on Discord about liking the format. So hopefully the format here is better. And yeah, anything you want to say, Toad, before we sign off?
Yep. Thanks everybody who's been watching the videos. We've been doing this for almost a year now. And I just want to say that if you're our biggest fans, then we're your biggest fans.
Thank you. We love you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.